Today we are going to take a look at the top 10 mistakes RC beginners make when they're starting out in the RC hobby. Now you may be wondering, you're not Matthew Simm, where is Matthew Simm? Well, unfortunately he's crying over his broken X-Max. I'm Ricky from BeyondRC and I'm going to be standing in for Matthew Simm today. Welcome back to Matthew's channel, and like I said, I'm going to be standing in for him today. Now we're going to talk about the top 10 mistakes people make when starting out in the RC hobby for the very first time. I'm going to talk about the first 5, and by that time he's probably fixed his broken X-Max, and then you'll be able to head over to my channel and check out the other 5. So let's not waste any time, let's get straight into the first thing, and that is your battery choice. The first thing we're going to talk about is your battery choice. Now as an RC beginner, I don't blame you. There are so many different options out there. We've got lithium polymer batteries, lithium ion batteries, nickel metal hydride batteries. It's very difficult to know what is the best thing to go for. I think for beginners, nickel metal hydride batteries probably still are the safest and easiest thing to go for, but they don't really offer as much power as their lithium ion or lithium polymer counterparts. Lipo batteries have really come down in price, which is why they are a really good option for most people now. They also offer the best performance, but you have to make sure you're buying the right pack for you. Let's talk about capacity first of all then, because I have seen many people make the same mistake. They will try to use batteries that they already have in their collection. Let's say for example, people will try to run 2 3000 milliamp hour batteries on their brand new Armour 6S Typhon, which is absolutely fine and it will work, but you're not going to get a huge amount of runtime. You must consider your capacity, and something like the Armour Typhon 6S, you're much better off going for 5000 milliamp hour or above packs, because you're going to get a decent amount of runtime and performance. Another thing people fail to do is check the physical size of the pack on the website or the place that they're looking to buy their pack from. This is really important because you must make sure that it actually fits into the RC model. Take a very brief look at the dimensions of the pack itself, confirm it will fit into your car's battery tray, and you should be good to go. Another thing you must consider is your C rating for your LiPo pack. Now what you want to do is make sure the pack is supplying the relevant power to the car's electronics to get the very best performance out of it. Now there's an easy way to work out how much power a pack will provide, and I will stick that on the screen now. The best thing to take a note of is how much power your electronics are going to require. Let's say you're running a 60 amp electronic system, for example. You want a pack that's going to supply 60 amps and above to give you a little bit of leg room to make sure you're getting the very best out of your electronic system. Running a lower C rating pack than intended is going to cause you all sorts of issues. You're going to put a lot of strain on the LiPo itself. You're also not going to be supplying the model with all the power that it actually needs, and it's just not going to end well. This brings us on to the next thing, which is people going for a 6S or an 8S vehicle as their very first RC car. This is something we're seeing more and more when it comes to RC beginners buying their very first RC car. A lot of people think go for the fastest, go for the biggest and go for the best, but it's not always the best thing to do. High-powered brushless models can be notoriously difficult to control. This is my Typhon 6S, and out of the box on 6S, this is an absolute rocket, and I would definitely never put this in the hands of a beginner. If you have the budget to do so and you really want to go for a 6S or an 8S car as your very first model, that is absolutely fine, but the one thing I would say is check to see if your transmitter has throttle dual rate controls. That will mean you can adjust your throttle settings. You can start off at something like 25%, 50%, 75%, all the way up to 100%. That's really going to help you to get comfortable with the model itself, and then once your skills have developed, you'll be able to drive the thing at 100% throttle, hopefully without crashing it. I've been into RC for over 20 years now, and anybody who asks me what's the best thing to go for as an absolute beginner, I'm almost always going to say don't go for something that's 4S, 6S or 8S. You're much better off starting with something a little bit smaller, let's say 1/10 scale or below. Start off with a brushed model, something that offers throttle dual rate as well, maybe something like the WL Toys range. They are ideal for an RC beginner. They're also quite cheap, which is a great way to get you into the hobby, and then you can decide whether or not you want to continue with it. Once you've built up your driving skill, you can move up to something like the Typhon 6S comfortably, and you're going to know you're going to be able to keep control of this thing and you're not going to be having too many crashes. Moving on then, and we need to talk about incorrect or dangerous charging of lipos. Lipo batteries are great if you look after them properly, and if you don't, this could happen. When charging lipo batteries, you always want to consider safety, and the best thing to do is always charge your battery pack in a lipo safe bag, and if you haven't got one of those, you could use a metal container or a tin. Using something like that is going to help to minimise the risk of one of these things catching fire and causing damage. I always charge my batteries at 1C, and if you don't know what that means, I'm going to stick a little bit of info on the screen now to show you how you would work out your charge rate for your lipo pack. Let's talk very briefly about USB chargers, because we see these things being included a lot of the time with cheap budget ready to run RC cars. Now they are absolutely fine and they will get the job done, but if you're looking to stay in the hobby, I wouldn't recommend using one of these things long term. As you know, lipo batteries can be a little bit volatile. You always want to make sure they're charged properly, and using a USB charger isn't always the best practice. If you're looking to stay in the hobby, I would definitely consider getting a proper mains powered charger. When using lipo packs, you must always observe the pack itself. If it looks swollen or damaged or even punctured, you should stop using it right away, because the last thing you want to happen is for it to catch fire when you're out and about bashing. So you did hear me mention the use of a proper mains charger, and the good thing about a mains charger is a lot of them have inbuilt safety systems these days, and they will alert you if you haven't connected a lipo properly or if there's a problem with one of the cells. So let's take a look at some of the ways you can stay safe when it comes to charging a lipo pack. Now the best thing to do, like I said at the start of this section, always use a lipo safe bag. Always make sure your connectors are nice and flush. There's nothing hanging out of the charger. Everything's nice and flush. Always charge at 1C, even if the pack says it can charge at 2C or above. For safety, I would always recommend charging at 1C. That is the best way to go. And finally, keep an eye on the pack itself. If you ever notice any damage or swelling, stop using the pack immediately, because it could catch fire when you're out bashing. This brings us on to the next thing, which is size of RC. Many times people go for stuff that is way too big for a beginner. So just like RC beginners going for the fastest model they can buy with their budget, many people think bigger is better, and sometimes this is true, but when it comes to RC beginners, bigger isn't always better. Going big almost always means more expensive, and when first starting out in the RC hobby, you may want to start smaller and more basic to see if the hobby is right for you. Now don't get me wrong, if you have the funds then go ahead and spend, but it's much better to be sensible and go for something more beginner friendly. You also have to consider the space and your bashing location. This is a huge consideration, as if you buy a large model and you don't have anywhere to run it, then what was the point? You're really going to struggle to find a suitable bashing location. If you have the location sorted, then perfect, but for someone who is more into backyard bashing or has limited space available, then a 1/10 scale model or below is probably going to be the best option. The final thing I'm going to talk about is parts availability. Parts availability for your brand new model is going to be one of the most important factors, because if you're a beginner in the hobby, I can guarantee you are going to break your model at some point. Now I'm going to use the Bonsai buggy, the B416, as an example here. This has been around for a couple of months. I've reviewed it on my channel. I've also done a brushless conversion on it. Now this thing is really good. I actually really enjoy it, and I do think it's a good competitor for the 144001, but it does have one big problem. If you go online right now, you're not going to be able to find any spare parts for this buggy, which is why I'm using it as an example. It's a massive consideration and you must do your research before buying your first model, because I can guarantee you're going to crash at some point. And if it happened to this, well, it's going to be stuck in its box or on the counter, because there really is nothing you can do if you can't buy any parts. If this was a Traxxas, an Armour, or even a WL Toys, I can guarantee you're going to find parts really easily. It's just something to consider. Just make sure you do some research before buying your first model, and just make sure you have got access to spare parts. Because having a perfectly good RC sat doing nothing is no fun at all. So that is the first 5 mistakes people make when starting out in the RC hobby for the very first time. Now if you want to check out the other 5, now is the time to head over to my channel. Matthew will be there ready to go with the other 5, which will complete our top 10 list. Now guys, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure today to stand in for Matthew and to feature on his channel. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to his channel, and when you get over to my channel, hit that subscribe button as well. We're both very close to 10,000 subscribers now. We're both also doing giveaways at 10,000 subscribers if you want to be in for a chance of winning a brand new RC car. Apart from that guys, we're going to leave it there today. Head over to my channel now and Matthew will be there ready to go with the other 5. Cheers guys, and I'll see you again soon.